Don't mind the avalanche of cats above me. I'm kind of having a cat situation right now. Hi! Exciting news! I finally have polished rocks, and I'm so happy. I haven't made a video in a couple weeks because I have literally just been doing whatever with these rocks for the last 4 weeks, trying to figure out what to do. Like, I think the last video I put through, I did the ivory soap, maybe, or I was gonna do the ivory soap. I don't remember what I did. I should probably go back and watch, but I'm not gonna do that. So I did the ivory soap. They did kind of look shinier. Then I was like, well, but now they have soap all over them. So then I went back and I did another week of Grit 4, and then that seemed like it polished them, but then also it was very sudsy because they still had soap on them. And then I was like, okay, well, this Grit 4 is not polishing them. So then I went back and I did another week in Grit 3, and some of the rocks, which were ones that I had gotten out of the bag of polished rocks that I bought at the flea market, actually that going through Grit 3 put some cracks and stuff in them. Like, it was too much, it was too rough. So I pulled those out, and then I went and did another week of Grit 4 again. And then some of them were looking like they were getting there, but they maybe just needed a little bit more. And so then I just went and put them in for another 3 or 4 days of Grit 4, and I added some more ceramic media. Like, I've been using the same pellets this whole time, and they were getting kind of worn down. And so I just put like another handful of fresh ceramic media in there and went, heck with it, and let it run for another 3 days. And I just checked them this morning, and they're polished, and I can't believe it. I don't know what was the trick of getting it to finally work. I don't know if I used the right amount of polished compound this time, or if it was adding in more ceramic media so that there was more stuff in there to tumble against it. I don't know. I have no clue. But they're finally freaking polished, and I'm so happy because this is literally the same, other than some of those other ones that I added in there, and like the ones that were like big and chunky that I took out initially after the first stage. This is the same batch of rocks that I've been tumbling since I got this rock tumbler. And I bought it in January, so I don't remember when I actually started tumbling, probably March. So it's been like 2 months at least, maybe 3 months of this same batch of rocks that I've been, to be completely honest, really sick of looking at these same friggin' rocks. And side note, I got myself another rock tumbler, which just showed up the other day. That's a dual drum Chicago Electric, and I just started 2 new batches of rocks yesterday on it because for that exact reason I was like, okay, these things are never going to polish. I'm sick of looking at them. I got to start something else tumbling because I'm going to go crazy if I have to just keep looking at these same rocks and they don't ever polish. And then they polished. So thank you, universe. But I'm excited. I want to show you guys my cool rocks that finally polish. They polished all except there's like 3 of them that were almost there. I mean, 90% there. So I saved the sludge, the slurry, and the media and everything, and I picked all of these out and washed them off by hand. And I took those 3. There was a bigger one and then 2 smaller ones, and put them back in with that media, poured that slurry back in there, and I'm going to let it run for another couple days and see if they get that last little bit of the way there. So let me show you my rocks. My rocks, let me show you them. Okay, so if you will remember, which is entirely possible that you won't remember because it's been a minute, these were the initial 3 that I think the last time I posted a video, I pulled these out and didn't do anything else with them because I decided that they were done because they are fully shiny. There's a reflection off of them, glossy, looking really good. So these were the 3 that didn't get anything else done with them. Okay, so we'll set those aside. These are all the rest, and I'll show you them in detail in a minute, that finally frigging shined, and I'm so happy. So let's go through them. The ones that I'll pull out first are the ones that came out of that bag of rocks that I got from the flea market. So they were already probably at like a Grit 3 level. They just needed a polish. They weren't, didn't have a reflection. So that would be this one here. which now, as you can see, has a nice reflection and it has lots of nice sparklies in it. There were some, like I said before, there were 3 or 4 out of the batch that were about this size and shape, that when I took this back to Grit 3 and ran it for like 5 days, they developed cracks and stuff in them. So I think that that was just too much for them. So I actually pulled those out and didn't do anything else with them because I didn't want them to fall apart and I didn't want them to compromise any of the other stuff in the batch. But this is the first one. Looks very nice. And then we have this one here. I have given these a rinse by hand in the strainer and just kind of ran some water over them. But as you can see, like on the back here, they still have some grit residue. That's what those little circles and stuff are. Is like some grit residue either on the surface or in some really fine lines that are on the surface. So I think I'm going to get some borax this weekend when I go grocery shopping and maybe run them for a couple hours in some borax and see if it gets those spots off of there and gets them clean. Because it seems like me just washing them by hand is not getting them clean. But very shiny. Then we have this one here. This one also did develop a few cracks, as you can see, but it wasn't as bad as the other ones. So I went ahead and let it go. And it had this weird... Is this the one that has the weird green spot? Yeah. In that little fissure, there's like a little green spot right there that I thought was interesting. Or maybe it was back here. Oh, yeah, right there. It's hard to tell when I'm looking through the camera as opposed to looking with my eyeballs at the actual rock. But there's that one. And then I think this was one of them as well. I think like all of this I think is potentially grit residue that might wash off. I'm not sure. But like all of these have at least one good, nice, smooth face, which is good. These might still be a little bit wet because I've just got them sitting on this washcloth. I haven't actually dried them off. This one I'm very impressed with. And you can see it's got all those spots on it from the grit. Ignore that. When I put this in there, it was a very matte surface. It's not sandstone, but it almost kind of felt like a sandstone. Or like looked like a sandstone in terms of shininess. Like it was very matte. And because it's so big and weirdly shaped, I was like, well, I don't know if that's going to tumble very well or if that's going to polish. And it actually did polish up really well, and it looks really cool. This was another one that came out of that bag of rocks, and it's hard to see. I wonder if I can put it up to the light. It's kind of transparent. Especially along this edge. It's very kind of transparent, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I'm very impressed with how that polished up. And then, surprisingly, this thing that I've had in there since the very beginning, you might remember, that I had just decided there was no way that this thing was ever going to polish, but I just kept leaving it in there because why not? And it actually did. I can't believe it. And it's really weird how there's like a fingerprint almost in the surface of that. That's been there since the beginning. But yeah, even this thing polished. So yeah, today is like a banner day for rocks. I can't believe it. This one finally polished up. No, that's not wet. Yeah, I thought maybe it was a little wet still, this side. This was that L-shaped rock. It's not so much L-shaped anymore. But this finally polished up. Looks very awesome. My tiger's eye, here, I'm going to dry it off, is finally polished. Unbelievably. It still has some grit on the bottom and all those crevices, but hopefully I can get that clean. But yeah, my tiger's eye, which I also thought was never going to polish, finally polished. I'm a little sad at what happened to this one. This was that one that kind of almost looked like a buckeye. When I went back and took it into Grit 3, it wore away the sides of it pretty bad because the whole top of it was smooth like this. But putting it into Grit 3 wore that down to where we kind of have where you can see the layers on the side now. That I learned a lesson from a TikTok friend that maybe when you're starting out, don't tumble rocks that you really care about until you figure out what you're doing. So I learned that lesson, but you know, it still looks cool. It doesn't look as cool as it did. But yeah, so even that shined up, and the bottom of it shined up, which that was the rough surface, so I can't believe that that shined up. But it did. This was the one where this side of it was polished, but this other side didn't want to polish, and that finally polished. Let's see, we have this little one here, which ended up turning out very interesting looking. On the back here, has very cool texture. This little guy, now that he's dry, isn't looking as shiny, so I might throw him in with some future batches on Grit 4 and let him have a little bit more. I could throw him into that batch that I've got going right now still, but I don't really feel like it. I don't feel like going over and opening the tumbler up again just to put this in there. So I might just set him aside and do him another day. And then we have all of my 5 million red and orange rocks. So this was one that I actually didn't run through the Grit 3, Grit 4 this time. I pulled it out before that because it looked like it was already polished enough. Although now compared to all of these, it looks like it could use a little bit more, not gonna lie. My nice cool flat one. Ooh, he's still wet. Dry him off. That has the yellowish on the one side and then more red on the other side. I have one more like this where the surface kind of looked like this still, where you could see like dimples and stuff on the surface, and that's one of the ones that's in the tumbler right now that I put in there to have a couple more days just to see. My very cool one that I love so much that I need to figure out what to do with my stripies. Looks very awesome. Still a little damp. This guy here. I'm so pleased with the color of all these ones. If I ever get a chance to go back out and do another rock hunt, I need to go back to the place where I got these and try to find some more that look like this. I actually need to go back and look at my pictures and remember what they looked like when they were fresh so that I can know how to find them. But I'm very happy with the color of everything that came out like this. This one I'm very pleased with. I love all of the different quote-unquote imperfections and the little, I mean, that's just awesome looking. I'm sure there are some people that would say, oh yeah, there's too much wrong with it, but I mean, that's beautiful to me. I love that. Look at that. Look how gorgeous that is. Got another one of my red, white, orange, peach color. See, to me, all of those veins and things like that is what makes every one of these stones unique and beautiful. Like, if it just looked like that, I wouldn't be interested. That's what I like. That's what's awesome to me. Got this one. And this little guy. And finally, my teardrop shaped one that I've had since the beginning is finally polished. And I'm so happy. And that's it. Pretty awesome. So that is my first batch of polished rocks that actually finally, like, I went through the whole process with these rocks and got them from where they were at the beginning. Insert photo here if you can find it. To this. Insert photo here. Even though this has been a really slow experience, because by its nature, that's just what it is, I enjoyed it immensely. It was a little frustrating to not have very much guidance as to what to do. But at the same time, the good thing is they're rocks, so there's not too much that I can screw up. I mean, aside from them cracking or breaking or whatever, but the good thing is there's always more rocks. So I would say to anybody starting this for the first time, be patient. You're going to have to be patient. That's just the nature of the thing. That's how it works. Be prepared to get all excited and put your rocks in the tumbler and then have to sit around and wait a week to find out if anything happens. And then also be prepared to be disappointed when you go and check them and it looks like very little has happened. Don't get discouraged by that, because really the only variable is time. Like, I got that new rock tumbler, the one that they sell at Harbor Freight. Unlike the original rock tumbler that I bought, it does not have a speed setting and it does not have an automatic timer to turn it off. It has on-off switch. That's it. One speed, that's what you get. You get running or not running. So your only variable that you have to contend with is time. You put your stuff in, you choose what grit you're going to go, and you choose how long. And that's it. And watch other people's videos. Look on TikTok, look on YouTube. The community seems to be very friendly from what I've seen so far. And a lot of people, other people who have gotten into this and are doing it, also don't really know what they're doing. They're just figuring it out as they go. Everyone so far that I've encountered has been very happy to answer questions, give advice, give tips, give encouragement, tell me not to give up, tell me don't worry about, if it seems like things are going wrong, suggest things that I can try. Like, people are friendly. So, stick with it. Don't get discouraged. And another thing that I learned from a person that I follow on TikTok is you don't have to go to the internet and buy a bag of rocks. You don't have to go out to a park and try to find rocks. Like, you can get rocks out of landscaping. These ones that I got from that thing at the antique mall, it was a 50-cent bag of rocks that were like river rock, like already polished most of the way. So I didn't really have to do anything to them other than shine them up, polish them. The big honking ones that I have over here, like this is from a bag. I mean, obviously it's not polished yet because I haven't done it. It's from a bag of tumbled like river stones that I bought at a home goods store to put out in my front flower bed. And I picked out a couple of them to bring inside. Like, they're already part of the way there. And all you would have to do is polish them. You can go, like the black and white one that I have upstairs. I pulled out of the landscaping at Taco Bell when I was sitting in the drive-thru because I looked down and I saw a cool rock. And I went, oh, hey, I bet that would polish up cool. And I got out of my car and picked it up like a total freak. So, I mean, if you're a person like me who's always liked cool rocks, since you were a kid, and you've been a person who every time you go someplace, you pick up a rock that looks cool and bring it home with you so that you can say, oh, I got that rock from the road on my grandma's property when I was a kid. Didn't expect that. So, if you're a person who's always collected rocks since you were a kid and they have a lot of good memories for you and you want something cool that you can do with them, then I would suggest this.
maybe start out with rocks that you don't care so much about, just in case. But yeah, I think it's awesome. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to keep making videos to show you guys. So hopefully you stick around and you enjoy them. And go find some cool rocks.